how this works. And we are rolling. Okay.
Yes,
so,
we are.
Woo! Hello. Today is Sunday, April 19th. Okay, I'm glad I wrote this down. 2019, and I am in Mishawaka, Indiana. I'm Olivia Martinez, horn student at Yale University, and I'm here interviewing the renowned second horn of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra,
Hugo Valverde.
Beautiful. Who is in Costa Rica right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's
Sweet.
right.
Awesome. So usually we have the guest say their own name, but also I'm glad you said it because like I speak a bit of Spanish, but no es fluido. Like
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Totally fine.
So yeah. So thank you so much. Again, like you're
My pleasure.
famous, and you know I've heard
come on.
that you're a really nice guy too. So here.
Well, you know, it's like in music, we just try to share as many moments as possible. Share music with everyone around ourselves. So this is what, yeah.
I mean, you're the interviewee. Like, feel free to talk as much as you want.
No, I mean, again, it's just like all the famous, you know, like, I mean, I usually tell people there are like even more famous people, but I think nowadays, one of the things that we have to keep in mind and also use is, for example, social media platform, because with the access we have to internet, with the access we have to, I mean, so many wonderful tools. I mean, I'm eager to contribute to that. That's why I'm like, a lot of people say, oh, you're really into social media and everything. But the main reason is that because that's my contribution to, for example, the horn world and the music world. You know, whatever I can contribute with, it's always nice and fun to do.
That's awesome, Hugo. I personally, for me, like it's made a big difference. Just seeing your Instagram posts, you have like such good stories and stuff. And I remember I first heard about you right after you won the audition. I think it was like 3 years ago, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was 3 years ago.
So
almost exact 3 years ago.
Wow, that's crazy. Has it felt like long or quick or?
It feels, I mean, for some days it feels like it happened last year or months ago. Some other days it feels like it's been even longer, like years, like 5, 6 years. It's crazy. I mean, it depends on the day and depends on the workload that we have.
Right.
So, which is pretty much a lot, almost every day. But some days are more easygoing, you know, at work. Operas that don't require a lot of energy. Some other operas require a lot of, like, you know, focus and energy, and that makes a difference. That's why it feels like a few months, sometimes, some other times more than 3 years.
Right. So after Rosenkavalier, you're probably like, oh, get me out of here. Like,
I mean, you know, like I would say, I mean, a lot of people say like, oh, how does it feel like if you're playing a long show, like for example, 3.5 hours, which I think is the average of the operas. But you know, like if you one way to make it more, let's say, what's the word? I should forget about words. I'm sorry. Like bearable. Let's say bearable.
Yeah.
If you want to like be able to like make it to the end and be well at the end. I don't know. I mean, I usually, for example, read more about the story of the opera. Try to be as engaged as possible, and that will make the time go by really quick. If you're following up with the story, if you're just there counting rests and waiting until you make to the end, then it's going to feel like a long night. So I think that's one of the points there.
Yeah, no, that's great advice.
Mhm.
Just be engaged and be in the music in the moment.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
As often as possible.
yeah, definitely. So awesome. Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you again. I think we were I remember you like friended me on Facebook right after you won that audition, and I was like, wait, is this the same guy? Why is he friending
Yeah.
me, like, who is a nobody, like? And so, and then I got like all your you know, your videos and stuff, and
Mhm.
so that's been really great, like seeing your, and I think I saw at one point you were like videoing yourself practicing. It was like backstage at the Met with a bunch of water jugs. Like, what was that?
It's that's one of the famous rooms that a lot of the brass players in the Met Orchestra use to practice, because I mean we don't have a lot of practice space at the Met, to be honest, and sometimes it becomes really tough for you when you, for example, have to practice or teach. So a lot of my colleagues teach at the Met, so all those practice spots, practice rooms are taken. There is always this room that is kind of far from where all those practice rooms are, and it's called the water bottle storage room. But the problem with that room is that it doesn't have a heating system nor air conditioning. So during winter time, it's really cold. So sometimes you have to practice with a coat. And in summertime, it's really hot, really humid there. But it's a room that, I don't know, the acoustic of the room is really nice for brass playing. I don't
Hmm.
know if it has to do with the water bottles that makes you, I mean, you sound really in a nice way. But yeah, I mean, I like to go there and practice and make videos occasionally, and just post them on Facebook or Instagram.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was just curious about that. It was.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough because let's say I'm practicing there, and all of the other practice rooms are taken, and one of the trumpet players comes in and says, "Hey man, is there any way I can teach here and just you pause your practice session?" I usually say yes. I mean, I never say no, because I mean I'm just there practicing, and they have to teach. So I
Hmm.
usually just go out for a coffee and let them have the lesson, and then I come back and just keep going with the practice.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
nice. We all practice in weird locations sometimes.
It's funny. Yeah, we just like the weirdest location sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah, there was one time. This is kind of like a funny story. In here in Costa Rica, I said, what it would be like to practice on the roof of my house, like just to have that really open space, seeing no walls around you. I mean, you're just there up in the. And again, I'm not recommending this to people because it's very dangerous. Just to go up the ladder
So you
with
were,
your horn.
oh wow,
Yeah,
like on the
yeah. I went up to, yeah, exactly, the roof. Uh, so I mean, I went up the ladder, grabbed the chair, put the chair in the, like, right in the center of the house of the roof, and started practicing there. I mean, it's really fun to see just nothing around you. I mean, it's really open space. You see the other houses, of course,
Mhm.
but that feeling of freedom was really nice. I mean, I've only done it once, but I mean, again, I don't recommend it because it's really dangerous.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, maybe you should give a concert soon on the roof.
concert up in the roof. Yeah, because I mean, it becomes a concert full of really high notes because of the altitude, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
All the
yeah.
birds will love it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Only the dogs can hear because they're so high. The notes are so high up.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that video you posted. It was like a G or something. I was like, whoa, dang. Like,
Oh yeah, that. But I was cheating to get up to that. It was something that I was experimenting. It wasn't a real bus.
mm,
What I was using there, but I mean, it was a high G.
Mhm.
But you know, I never played that note, and it was the first time, and I was like, wow, that's interesting.
That's great. I'm jealous.
Yeah, yeah.
especially as like a low horn player. That's pretty cool how you're able to get up there. Do you have like a secret, or do you
Well, I mean, I think
method?
nowadays we home players have to be comfortable playing either low or high. Um, I think range it's after sound for me. Range is the most important thing on the horn, and because you never know. For example, in opera, as a second horn, which is a low horn position. I mean, sometimes if you're playing the Mozart opera, you're gonna have to play some high notes. For example, F sharps, G's, A's, B flats, even. Um, if you're playing Strauss, you're gonna have to deal with high notes also.
Mhm.
Beethoven has, I mean, every composer has high notes. Puccini has a lot of passages for example, for first and second horn that require a lot of range, especially for the second horn. So I think it's important to visit the both ranges every day you practice, just to make sure they are there in good place, being taken care of. And yeah,
Nice.
that's why it's really important.
Right. Yeah.
And any other notes, for example, that the high G, the fake high G that I played, it's just part of getting out of the envelope. Always like going for the extremes, which is also really important.
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like a warm up you do every day, or are you like a kind of different person different warm up every day,
Um,
or?
I usually I do some specific exercises every day. Um, when I was at Lynn University, one of my roommates was a trumpet player, and he's a great trumpet player. He went to CIM afterwards to get him masters with Michael Sachs,
Mhm.
who is the principal trumpet of the Cleveland Orchestra, and I admire him very much. He's a very good friend of mine also, and I was actually talking to Michael Sachs one day in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and then I sat down with him to talk about warm-ups, and I told him, "Hey, Mike, I actually really love your warm-ups, and I've been doing your warm-up since I was at Lynn University, and it's just very, like this is all published in his book. Well, I think that his warm-up really helps me to be ready for the day. Just
Mhm.
it consists on long tones, slurs, like very fundamental things that are the foundation of your playing.
Mhm.
And for me, doing that every day really helps me to just get to that point of my playing that I can just play whatever.
Mhm.
So that's a warm up that I do every day. I don't do the whole warm up. I do the long tone section. I also do a lot of stamp, which is also a trumpet player. I do that a lot.
Mhm.
Um, I do Clark as well. Clark just for like fingers coordination,
Mhm.
and I also do exercises from the Froydis book, the thoughts on playing the horn well.
I love that book.
It's a great book that we have access to. I mean, and that's pretty much what I do for the warm up. And some days for example, I just start playing a tune if I feel like if I don't have, for example, a rehearsal in the morning, or now that we don't have anything going on in the performance venues, I'ma just play a tune, play a Costa Rican tune, try to keep all those thoughts in mind, beautiful sound, beautiful production, and try to go from there. I try to stick to my usual routines with warm up.
Mhm.
And then I also like to try new things in the warm ups, just to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Keep it.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I don't know if you mind, but maybe we could back it up a lot. talk about maybe how you got started with music, growing up in like Costa Rica, and where you were, and just kind of like your early musical influences, kind of like that.
Okay, well, when I started here in Costa Rica, well, my dad is a trumpet player. He's not a professional trumpet player, but he still plays. He still plays in the community band of my hometown. And my mom loves music. She listens to music every day on the radio, any type of music, but mostly classical. And when I was little, you know, I was always hearing my dad practice. I was always listening to classical music on the radio, uh, pop music, I don't know, Spanish music also, but not Spanish like, you know, orchestral Spanish, you know, Spanish singers that my mom would listen to a lot that she liked. So I was always, you know, immersed into listening to music. And when I was about, you know, 2 years old, 3 years old, maybe four, I have these kind of like pictures that come to mind of going to the, how do you call it, the processions during Holy Week. You know, there's like a band, three trumpet players, trombone, and percussion, going with the images of the of Holy Week. And you know, my dad would play in that band, and he would take me with him. So I mean, I was always listening to trumpets, to brass instruments since I was very little, and I liked it. He told me that I would just start clapping right away when I heard instruments play. And he would also take me to the concerts of the community band, and that I was so happy to be there whenever the band started playing. And after the concerts, every single musician wanted to like hug me, you know, like just hold me, because they were like, "Oh, he's like the best member of the audience right here."
That's cute.
And doing that very, very often got me into that, you know, woke up my interest of being more related to music. And when I was 6 years old, my dad enrolled me in the music school of my hometown, and I started with solfegge lessons. You know, how to read music and music appreciation classes and everything. And I always enjoyed it. You know, like it wasn't easy. You know, some days I would say, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore," but most of my time was very interesting. Was always very. I was always looking forward to go to music lessons, music classes, mostly on the weekends.
Oh, hello. Hello.
And when
Oh, I think you're breaking up. Hello.
hello,
Oh, I think
am
you.
I here?
Okay, now I think it's good. Connection was wonky for a sec.
Yeah, it's something because it's actually raining here. There's a thunderstorm, so
Oh,
sometimes power might go out. But let's hope that it's just gonna stay like this.
okay.
And
Keep
yeah,
knock on wood.
yeah, knocking on wood. And yeah, and I started music lessons when I was 6 years old, and a year later, it was time for me to, you know, pick an instrument. And I remember that my three options were, the first option was tuba, second option was um, saxophone, and I didn't have a third option. Third option was empty. So when I was there at the music school, and the director of the music school comes up and asks, "Hey, so what do you want to play?" And I said, "I want to play tuba." But then he said that the only tuba that the music school had was already taken by one of the students.
Hmm.
So I said, "Oh, bummer." and he said, what is your second option? And I said, saxophone. But I want to play the baritone sax, the big saxophone. And he said, well, I mean, that can't be possible because you're not tall enough. I was always very short. And so I was like, well, okay, I don't have a third option. But third option is empty. And he says, well, I have a horn. I have a French horn that no student has played in a while. And I said, sure, I'll play that. And I didn't quite remember how the French horn looked like because I never saw one live. I always saw trumpets, tubas, and trombones in the processions during Holy Week. So when I saw the horn, I said, wow, I mean, that looks really interesting. I want to play that instrument. And I picked it up, but then it didn't have a mouthpiece. And I had it for about 2 weeks at home. And I would tell my dad, hey, Dad, this doesn't make any sounds. I cannot get any sounds on the horn. And he says, well, it's because you're missing the mouthpiece. But we already ordered your mouthpiece. They're making one for you somewhere. And then like 3 weeks later, I get this little box that is actually, let me try to, oh, here it is.
Oh, you have it.
This is my very first mouthpiece.
Whoa.
It's a Yamaha.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's all tarnished and, look at it.
Nice.
But this is the very first mouthpiece that I had playing the horn. Mm-hmm. And then I put it on the horn. I just couldn't stop playing because I started making sounds. And then my first teacher was Daniel Leon. He's also from my hometown. But at that time, he was studying in the United States, in New Orleans. I think it's Loyola University. He was studying there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, he was my first teacher. I studied with him for about 3 or 4 years in my hometown's music school. My hometown name is Barva, Barva, Barva. And I would go there on Saturdays, have a lesson with him. But then he had to stay in the U.S. because he was pursuing his master's degree. And then I switched enrolled in the National Music Institute in the capital, San Jose. And then Luis Murillo became my teacher. He's the principal horn of the Costa Rican National Symphony Orchestra. Mm-hmm. And that was a great time with him. I started studying with him when I was 12 years old, 11, something like that. Mm-hmm. Because I started when I was 7. I started playing the horn when I was 7. I started very, very young. And it was great. I was there starting with him up until 2012, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was about 4 years in the Music Institute. Then before the Music Institute was in my hometown in Barva. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much how I started. I would commute to the Music Institute after high school, and those were pretty busy days because, I would start at 7 a.m. every day and then finish at around 3 p.m. and then have classes from 5 until 7:30. So we'll have to just commute. Sometimes I would start buzzing in the bus. In the bus ride, I would
That's
just
great.
do some things like that.
I think Froydis talks about that too in her
really?
book. Yeah,
I think. I mean, I read it, but I mean, it's been a while. I read it, I think, my freshman year at Lynn, and I can't remember most of the things, but I think I recall a section saying that. And I mean, it was so. I always had the mouthpiece with me, and I mean, I thought it was cool just to have your mouthpiece and tell people that, oh, I play the horn. I don't have my horn, but I have the mouthpiece. Something like that.
Nice.
And yeah, it was, I mean, it's really nice to remember those times, when we start, when we see our progress, when we're able to start playing more challenging things on the instrument, then you start noticing that and you say, okay, I want to play this, I want to play that. now I can play this higher note. Now I can play this lower note.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the part that's, you know, got me more excited about pursuing a career in horn playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That the excitement of it and learning and curiosity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's true. I mean that.
oh
What are you gonna say?
oh I was just did you and your teachers were really good about nurturing that too, right? Like keeping the fun.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate, you know, teachers, and I think the influence you can get from your first teachers is the most important. Because, for example, my first teacher, Daniel, he also studied with Luis Murillo, who was my second teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I had Luis's influence or teachings even before I studied directly with him. And I think those two really saw that I was, you know, it was easy for me to make a buzz, for example, in the mouthpiece. It was easy for me to produce an acceptable sound for a beginner on the horn. And they said, you know, we saw that on you, and we just wanted to see how far we could get, getting you better and better at horn.
Mm-hmm.
And they were always really eager. For example, they would give me recordings, give me CD recordings of horn solos, orchestra pieces, and I would just listen to them and say, wow, that's amazing. They sound so great. And one of the first recordings that I heard was Baumann playing the Gliere horn concerto,
Yes.
and I was just, it sounded like a fairy tale, like a tale. I mean, magic everywhere. I was like, oh, what is that one? How can he do that in the horn? And up to date, I still ask myself how he was able to do that in the horn, because it's really challenging what he does.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, those are the memories that are stuck with me up
Mm-hmm.
until now. I still think about those days. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That recording is one of my absolute favorites. It was probably, I think I heard it like freshman year of high school, and my
Mhm.
horn teacher showed it to me, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. So
Yeah, it's just a recording that I mean, I always go to. I'm actually working on the Gliere right now. I'm trying to learn the whole piece, and that's my reference. That's my reference recording right now.
oh, awesome. So
Yeah.
well, can't wait to hear that when if you put out some videos of it.
Hopefully, you know, one of my goals is to play that with an orchestra someday. So that's why I'm learning it thoroughly right now, learning it well, so I can just go out there and, you know, try to be as almost as good as, well, you know, that's really putting it really high up. But let's say at least 50% of what Baumann did with the horn.
Hey, that would be, if I could do 50% of that, that would be great.
Well, yeah, I mean, me too. Same here. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, that's why we practice. That's the whole point of practicing the horn.
Mm-hmm. So awesome. So let's see. So you were talking about your high school teachers, Danielle, Luis.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And at what point, I think you mentioned Lynn already, but so you're uh doing this stuff. At what point did you
Mm-hmm.
decide to go into music, or what, was there like a turning point, or you were just you were kind of on this track for a while, right?
Yeah. I mean, since I started music lessons when I was 6 years old, and I mean, I was always, you know, related to music. Um, and I also had other teachers in my hometown and then the music institute that were very eager to share their experience, their expertise with you. And but you know, I remember having a talk with Luis about pursuing a career in music. And he said, you know, I want to talk to you first, and then I want to talk to your parents, because I see that you have the willingness of, you know, becoming a professional horn player. And that's when he mentioned a possibility to go to the United States to study, or even Europe, because I told him I wanted to go to Vienna. Yeah, Vienna was always like, okay, I want to go there, the Vienna horn, but that's really tough, because, you know, you have to learn German, and I didn't know any German, and my English was like, you know, very, very bad at that point. And
Really?
yeah, I mean, I you know, I knew the colors, I knew the shapes, and I knew the greetings, and that's it. And, you know, I'm still learning. You were still learning. I'm still learning English and everything. But um, when we had the talk, you know, he was really honest and said, okay, this is what you have to do if you want to pursue a career in music. You know, you got to keep in mind that it's going to be challenging. And I don't want to tell you that it's just going to be like the easiest thing on earth. You know, like, a lot of support has to come from your family, a lot of not only moral support, but also financial support. And at that point I was like, oh sure, I'll do it. Sure, whatever, I can do it. But then I didn't understand what it really was. So, like, I think 2 months later, I was playing in the orchestra with my teacher. I was playing second horn, and I think the rep was Sibelius 2 in the second half. And then in the first half we played the Gliere horn concerto. And Luca Benucci, who is an Italian horn player, was scheduled to play the Gliere, but then he had to cancel 3 weeks before, because Zubin Mehta didn't let him out of a Bruckner 4 performance.
Oh
So
no.
he called Luis, and he said, hey, I won't be able to go. I'm really sorry. And I tried to convince the maestro, but it was impossible. So Luis, my teacher, was like, oh, that's really bad. That's really unfortunate. It's okay. I'm going to try to find a replacement, try to find another friend of mine. So he called Greg Miller. And he is the current teacher at Lynn University and also the University of Maryland. And he also played with the Empire Brass Quintet for many years. So he called Greg Miller, and Greg Miller said, sure. I mean, I'll confirm in a couple of days. And next day he called him and said, yes, I will go and play the Gliere. And then Luis said, you know, it would be great if you could just prepare something for Greg, prepare something for him, and then you ask him if he can listen to you after one of the rehearsals. And yeah, it happened that way. We were in rehearsal, but then Luis said, okay, you're gonna have to do it yourself. You know, you gotta be brave, and you gotta go and talk to him and tell him that you want to play for him. So after one of the rehearsals, I went up to him and said, oh, Mr. Greg. I told him Mr. Greg, not Mr. Miller. It was kind of funny. Yeah, Mr. Greg, I would love to play for you a lesson. And he said, oh, it's okay, sure. I only have 20 minutes, but yeah, I can listen to you. Time passed, and those 20 minutes turned into like 2 hours.
Wow.
And we even forgot to go get lunch. And at the end, he told me, hey, I'm going to talk to your teacher, and let's all talk tomorrow or after the solo performances.
Mm-hmm.
And Luis talked to me after he talked to Greg, and he said, hey, he wants you to go study with him in the United States. And I think this is a really golden opportunity for you. And I was like, I'm going to do it. Sure, I'll do it. I'll do whatever. But then, you know, it was really tough because that was around April or May. And all the admissions were like had already passed, because admissions in the US are in I think January or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you send in your tapes in December, and it was already April, and
Mhm.
you know, he said, I'm gonna call the university just to make sure we have a spot, because we have actually two spots at the moment. And 2 days later, after he had already went, you know, come back to the US, he said, I've got a spot for you, and you have to start working on your TOEFL, because you have to take the TOEFL, you have to get a passport, you have to set up an appointment at the embassy, because you're going to have to eventually get a student visa.
Mhm.
And it was really tough because it was already May, and I had from May until August to get all that prepared. And my English was, I mean, that was probably the most intense English studying that I've done in my life. You know, because I mean, I had to get ready for the TOEFL test. That is a really tough 4 hour long test. You sit there, and it was just, you know, stressful. But thankfully, I was able to do it. And the day came, it was already August, and I left Costa Rica to go to Lynn University. And it was just a big change, because that was my first time out of the country. And it wasn't that I was going to be out of the country for 1 week and then come back. No, I was going to go start college. And it was really difficult for me to adapt, first to the new culture, to the language.
Hmm.
I was thinking out of my comfort zone, and now I was studying by myself in Florida. But those 4 years were really great. I learned a lot. I made a lot of great friendships, and I learned a lot from Greg. Now Greg is a really close friend of mine, and we talk, you know, almost often, you know, every day.
Mhm.
And I mean, I learned a lot, and
Yeah. He's
you know,
awesome.
makes you. I mean, yeah, I mean, he's great. He's one of the, you know, he's a great player. Great, he's got a great sound. I've always told him that.
Oh yeah.
And,
I got to.
and he was what?
Oh, sorry, real quick. I got to work with him at NOI, National Orchestral Institute, this past summer. Um,
Oh, nice. That's
yeah,
awesome. I didn't know.
really nice man and such a beast at the horn.
Yeah, he's like, you know, he's really strong. And I've always, and I told him, I envy that from you. I mean, he's got the chops, you know, he never gets tired.
Oh
And I
yeah.
go like, man, that's, I mean, that would be really useful for playing operas. And now I, for example, when I was trying to get more comfortable at the Met, I started doing a lot of the exercises on a daily basis that he told me. Because I mean, sometimes you create your own routine and don't do all of the things. I mean, you're supposed to do it if it's gonna be good for you. But a lot of the things he said, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start incorporating those into my practice routines, and they've been amazingly helpful.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we keep in touch. He's great. He's a great guy. Great, and he's taught me a lot. And yeah, my time at Lynn was amazing. Then after Lynn, time was when time to apply for grad school came up, uh, I you know, to be honest, I wasn't thinking about grad schools when I started my senior year, and I said, well, I mean, I guess it's time to apply for grad school, because I want to stay in this country. I want to learn more, and I want to experience, you know, more teachers, you know, just like learn from other teachers. And you know, I had a lot of options. I applied for several schools, and I went out to audition to the schools and everything. And I actually went to audition for Manhattan School of Music. That was my first time in New York.
Mhm.
That was 2016, and I remember it very well because my first time in New York. And I went to the Met. I went to see Manon Lescaut at
Ooh.
the Met by Puccini. And I mean, the first time hearing that orchestra was just life changing. I was like, wow, they sound so together, so in tune, so great. I want to be like them someday. But then I went back to Lynn. Then I kept going with my auditions. But you know, that concert, that show at the Met really stuck in my mind. I was just like, mesmerized of how beautiful it was, the singing, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I just always like that was like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I got all the results, the letters from the music schools, and one of them was Rice University, and I was like, well, I'm sure. I mean, I think it's a great option. VerMeulen is a great teacher, also great friend also. And and one of the things that had me really stressed out was the money, because I mean, my family doesn't have a lot of money. I didn't have any money, and it was like I need to go to a place that I can afford living with what I have available in
Mm-hmm.
terms of finance. And Rice was great because they offered me a full scholarship, full ride for my master's, and I'm always thankful. I mean, not only Rice, but Lynn also. Lynn provided
Right.
me a full
Mm-hmm.
scholarship, and I will be forever thankful with them, because that's just the least I can do is to give them every day just making music. Is I'm always think of whoever helped me to get where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I was at Rice, it was really challenging. It wasn't easy to be there because the home studio was. I mean, they were amazing, and I remember telling Bill that, hey, I'm the worst here. I need to get better. I'm really in trouble because I don't play as good as the rest of the home studio. And he was like, well, you're here to learn from me and also from them, but mostly from them. You're gonna learn the most from your studio colleagues, because you're gonna be playing with them pretty much every day. You're gonna be playing with them rehearsals. You're gonna be playing there with them chamber music, and I'll see you once a week for a lesson. And hopefully, you're gonna do whatever I tell you to do, but then really try to learn from everything around you, everything and everyone around you. And it was real. At the beginning, it was challenging, but then I learned a lot, just by listening and trying to ask a lot of questions to people about, how to approach horn playing. But yeah, I was there for a year. And
That's
I don't know if we have like questions up to this point, maybe.
yeah, no, I was gonna just say real quick, that's great
Yeah.
advice from Bill VerMeulen, the
Hmm.
horn guru.
Yeah,
So
the horn guru, yeah.
so yeah, he's an incredible teacher. He has the most well thought out explanations for everything. It's crazy. Yeah, so
Yeah, he's really just concise with the way he explains things about, I mean, not only horn playing, but about music. Like he makes you understand how things work. He shows you how things work and what should work for you, what should work for other people. And that's one of the things that I admire about teachers, that there are teachers out there that stick to one teaching method. And for me, there's nothing wrong with that. But not everything works for certain people. Like we're all different. For example, our anatomy, our shape of our teeth, our lips, that can make challenges teaching someone how to play the horn well. Oh, you gotta, in order to play the horn well, you gotta do this and that, and if you don't do it, you might be in trouble. He's not like that, and I think that really helped me to have an open approach of how to play the horn, and said like, okay, it is okay if you do this your way because that makes you sound good. It is okay for him to do that way because it sounds really good. So I was always like, okay, if it sounds good, then it's good. If the
yeah,
sound is good, that
yeah,
was always what I'm worried about, and always put in my first priority, sound.
definitely.
And yeah, I mean, it was always a collective contribution. We're always playing for each other. We were always together,
Hmm.
and just doing lots of mock auditions, Rise, talking about excerpts, talking about just, possible possibilities. Oh, let's talk about auditions. Let's talk about life. Even
Yeah.
going for a coffee and talk about like horn related things is always helpful.
And I read that
But
you're really into coffee too, right?
I'm for a Costa Rican person to not be into coffee, it's like a sin. I always tell that to my Costa Rican friends. It's a sin if you don't like coffee, and if you're from Costa Rica, because, for example, my sisters, they don't like coffee, and I hope they're listening right now, past the door. I always like give them a hard time, tell them, hey, you need to drink coffee. Come on, it's like our pride. But yeah, I mean, for me, coffee is I'm every time I wake up, coffee right away.
Oh
When
yeah.
I'm practicing coffee, when I've gotten a lot of weird looks, and like, what? When I tell people that even during the shows, I have my coffee mug with me and I drink coffee when I'm, for example, counting rests, just sipping coffee right there. Ooh, sorry,
Interesting.
just fell again.
Maybe I'll have
Yeah,
to
again,
check it out.
I don't recommend it also either, because some people get really shaky, they get really like jittery, and
Right.
I I I don't.
Mhm.
I got to a point. I think I've just drank so much coffee that I got to a point that it doesn't affect me. It's sort of like a drug. I think like you need it all the time. I'm the same with coffee. I need to drink coffee every day.
It's
So
delicious. So
it's amazing. I don't. Are
yeah.
you drinking coffee right now?
I'm actually drinking water, but when I was in,
Oh,
I spent a semester in Vienna, actually studying
oh
with,
wow,
a semester abroad, and I got to study with Wolfgang Vladar, so on Vienna
that's
horn.
amazing.
So yeah,
That's awesome. I'm
I,
so jealous.
it was so great, and I had the best coffee there. Like it's really good.
Wow. I've never been to Vienna, but it's one of my goals to go to Vienna and experience how to play the Vienna horn, because I've never done it. The
Definitely,
closest I've been is just playing the F horn, but I don't know if it feels the same way.
it's unreal. You're gonna love it. So, um,
Can't wait. Yeah,
definitely.
I'll definitely record something and post it on the Vienna horn.
Oh,
Even if it's not good, I'm just gonna post
do it.
it.
Yes. So, how are you doing on time? Like, because if you have to go, we can wrap up early.
I'm good with time. I
Okay.
already did what I had to do in the morning. Already warmed up a little bit, but I'm gonna practice later. But no, we're good with time.
Okay.
Nothing to worry about.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So I was just wondering. So then, you talked about rice a bit. Actually, I met
Mhm.
Markus Osterlund at
Oh, nice. Yeah,
he was my teacher
Marcus is
there.
great.
Yeah, so we've
That's awesome.
hung out at different places. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so
Oh, I miss Marcus. He helped me a lot too when I was at Rice. Because he had been there for 3 years, and when I started my first year of grad school, that was his senior year. So we overlapped for 1 year, and he always sounded so great. He always sounds so great and I was always asking him about things, and if he sees this video, uh, or if you tell him about it, he's gonna remember that. And pretty much with the rest of my studio classmates, I was always asking them things, asking them, okay, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you sound so good in this? And that's what Bill VerMeulen was referring to. That I'm I'm gonna learn the most from my colleagues, because you're gonna hear them play every day, and it would be really a huge mistake if I didn't ask them how they do the things.
hmm
So he can tell you more about that. Marcus,
yeah, he's
he
incredible.
was always very nice, and he's always willing to help people. He's very generous. That's what I think about when someone mentions Marcus, generosity.
Hmm. I'm actually gonna interview
Yeah.
him as well at some point, so looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be great. Yeah, you're gonna have a great time.
Oh yeah, so cool. Well, let's see. Oh yeah, so the Met. Uh, either like how you got the audition. Well, I don't know if you want to.
Mhm.
I was reading online. There's a lot of. I was reading the audition cafe story and stuff, so that was really interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
how you prepared for the audition, or if you just want to go straight to like stories that like favorite memories like that you've had at
Mm,
the Met.
Uh, well, for the audition, sure, I can talk about the audition process. Well, the Met wasn't my first audition I took before. I took other auditions before,
Hmm.
but I think the process of the Met was peculiar and unique because, I mean, I'm not getting ready for, for example, a symphony orchestra, a traditional symphony orchestra. I was getting ready for an opera orchestra, and opera was an area that was basically unknown. I never played an opera before joining the Met, and I heard excerpts from operas. And I knew that the ring cycle existed. I knew that long call was an excerpt. Uh, I knew that opera was there, but I never had a close contact with it. And when I saw the audition listing, I told Bill, "Hey, what do you think? I mean, there's this opening right here." And he said, "Well, it would be really, you know, cool from you if you didn't take it. It's you must take the audition. It's a great opportunity, and why would you lose if you didn't win it? You're just gonna win more experience about taking auditions." That was about 3.5 months before the audition, maybe four. But yeah, I was a total of, I think, 3 months
Hmm.
getting ready for the audition, because when I sent my resume, they replied and said that I needed to send a tape with some of the excerpts, recording some of the excerpts from the list. And the excerpts were Fidelio opening of the overture with the second horn solo. Um, what else was there? An excerpt from Wozzeck, the opera of Wozzeck, that is really goes from a low B up to a high C. So there's a lot of range you have to cover there. I also had to record Lohengrin, the prelude of the third act. I had to record, I'm forgetting. It's gonna come to mind. Oh, Gotterdammer. I think it was the second act, second scene,
Oh, okay.
the canon.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I said it wrong, but I should know. And the other one was uh Fidelio. Well, I think those four.
Okay.
So I recorded them, um, and sent my CD to the Met. But funny story that when they were listening to my CD, they couldn't play it because I sent it in the wrong format.
No.
So, and I was a little bit in shock and scared, because I mean all the time that I spent working on the excerpts. And I remember when I received the email that they couldn't play my CD and they needed the CD, the recordings by the next day or 2 days later. At that point, I was in Dallas hanging out with my friend Ernie. He's the fourth horn in Philly. And we were just there hanging out at his place, and I got the email and I said, "Hey, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to go back to Houston tomorrow because I need to send my recordings and I didn't bring my laptop with me." And he said, "Oh, that's so unfortunate." So I just went back to Houston the next day and sent the recordings and made sure they received them. And they said, "We got your recordings. We're gonna listen to them tomorrow." And they worked. They were able to listen to the recordings,
Yes.
and they invited me to the live audition. So I was like, "That's good. That's good." So when I received the list, it was like, I don't know how many excerpts, like 20 or maybe 25 excerpts, something like that. But you know, the only ones that I knew was Check Five, pictures at an exhibition, which what Fidelio, because I mean that's a second horn excerpt. Um,
And the Vodsak and
and the one from
yeah.
the Vodsig, and the one from Rosenkavalier,
Mm.
beginning of the. But then the rest was just, I didn't know any of the excerpts. I didn't know excerpts from, for example, Tosca, Rheingold,
Mm.
Gotterdammer, Valkyr. I didn't know those excerpts. Don Carlo.
Yeah.
So I really had to start listening to the operas. And at Rice, I was lucky enough that Rice has the access to the Met Opera on Demand, which is the online database of the company. So I was listening to the excerpts with the Met. I was listening the Met play the excerpts. I was listening uh, the second horse at that point where Michelle, which she's great, she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I respect her so much, and also a very good friend of mine, Michelle and Scott Brubaker, and you know they were the two second horns there.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I was listening to them play the excerpts, and I wrote down every single thing I heard from the recordings. I was always like, okay, there, this is the tempo marking, this is the volume they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
this is the breathings, and this is how the orchestra is sounding at this point. It's like very mellow, it's very bright, whatever. I just wrote everything down, and with all that information, I just went to the practice room and tried to do it as close as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for, you know, for the 3 months before the audition. And you know, it was every day just going and prepare the excerpts, working on very specific things on one excerpt. I never ran the excerpts when I was starting to work on them. I would always just take small segments, work on them, and then just try to put the whole structure together. It's like building a Lego. You go piece by piece. And yeah, when I was like pretty much ready with the entire list, I started doing a lot of mock auditions. I got to a point that I was doing at least 3 mock auditions a day, and I would just ask anyone in the hallway. You know, I asked a lot of people, and a lot of people, if you know, they will remember if you ask them. I would ask string players, woodwind players, percussion, faculty, if they could just listen to me play to at least 3 excerpts. And because it's always good to have different ears other than just horn players listening, because we horn players are going to listen to the exact same things every time. We're going to say, oh, you missed the note. That note was flat. You didn't breathe there. I mean, we sort of know what the horn players are going to say. But if you play, for example, um, let's say short call for a flute player, they're gonna probably say, "Okay, why did you miss the note? It doesn't sound control. It doesn't sound in tune, something like that." So I mean, it's always good to play for different people, because in the audition committees, you're not only going to have horn players, you're going to have the orchestra there. You're going to have the principal people from the sections listening, and they're always listening for the different aspects.
Totally.
So you need to be able to put yourself in that, recreate that before you show up to take the audition, because you're going to have a lot of great feedback before. And that's what I did. And when a week before the audition, then I was like, okay, I mean, I've done a lot, and there are a lot of things that I still want to change, but I'm not gonna mess with it.
Hello?
Audition, and I want to. Are
Oh,
we here?
oh, we're back.
We're back. Okay.
Okay, you were saying
Awesome.
I don't want to, or you were mess with the audition, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to mess with, like changing things 1 week before the audition
Right.
because it was too close. And whatever I did up until that point, I said, okay, this is what I've done. The rest, let's just go with it, stick with it, and try to bring, and hopefully this is what they're looking for. I've done my work around to what their concepts are. Some of the things I'm doing my way, but I was always open to suggestions from all my colleagues at Rice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I showed up, and it was 2 days. The first day was the prelims, then the second day was semis and the finals,
Mm-hmm.
and it was long. I remember there were long, chunks of time. And it's just, patience. Patience is one of the things that nobody talks about, and you just got to be patient and try to um, wait for your turn, but be ready. I mean, be ready at whatever given time,
Mm-hmm.
and always know what you have to do, but expecting nothing. You
Yeah.
gotta expect nothing and be ready for anything. That's one of the things that VerMeulen says to his students, like
That's great.
expect nothing, be ready for anything.
Yeah.
So
I
that
think,
that puts you more into, yeah.
oh, I was just gonna say, I think Clevenger, because I studied a bit with him at IU, my undergrad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, he's great. One of the things he would say is the most dangerous person in the audition warm-up room is not the person who's railing away all the excerpts. It's the person who's playing like one note or like a slow scale, like soft or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
you're always. I mean, and you hear that a lot for example, in auditions. You hear people just screaming up high and running down the excerpts, and whenever they do a mistake, they stop and do it again, again and again and again. And like it's up to you to let that affect you or not.
Mhm.
I mean, I always have my earphones, and I'm listening to a song or the excerpts or my favorite group or whatever, or just have the earphones on.
Yeah.
I mean, inside, so you can hear what's going on around you.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, patience is it's a great thing. It's a great skill to have while
Mhm.
taking auditions.
Right.
But yeah,
Was that a dog?
it's just so important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dog.
that's my dog. He's barking out there.
Aw, that's cute.
Yeah,
I've got a
he
dog.
probably just woke up.
The what?
Yeah, he was taking a nap. He probably just woke up.
Does he like when you play horn, or I know some dogs do.
I mean, he's never around me when I play horn because we have a backyard. Whenever I'm playing, he goes to the backyard and stays there. So I think he doesn't like my horn playing.
Aw. Well,
Yeah, I think he'd rather just stay away from me. Yeah,
that's all right. So,
I
uh,
know. I know of dogs that they would sit under the chair of whoever is playing, and I think that's awesome.
yeah,
But
my
my
dog, like,
dog wouldn't do that ever.
my dog sleeps when I play.
It's I mean that's awesome. Yeah, it's just like they're sleeping. Mine is just doing her thing.
So, um, yeah. So then you won the audition, and what's that been like since? Any favorite memories or funny gig stories? I know people have been sharing those those videos on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the funny story.
yeah. So.
Oh, I mean, it's funny because I saw the one that Steven Williamson shared,
Oh, I haven't seen that.
and yeah, but he said I gotta look for the one that is the most politically correct story to share here. And I said that's really important, and because I mean there are a lot of stories that I know, but that I'd rather not tell, for example, in social media, because that involves things that
Right.
you might find, wow, that really happened, and yeah, things. But I mean, funny stories. Let me think. The first one that comes up to mind, it was when I was at Lynn. We were playing Scheherazade, and I was playing first horn, and I was playing the solo. And then comes the muted part. But then in the held C sharp, I forgot to tell the second horn, hey, could you just start the note right when I get to that note? For example, second horn there. And I kept playing. And I was like, oh, I need to put my mute on, and I don't have a lot of time. And I had it in the floor. I didn't have it hanging from my wrist. That was a huge mistake. So when I reached down to the floor, I hit my bell with the mute, and the mute fell and just rolled, and it was a whole mess.
Oh, no.
I can just remember the face of the conductor, like, I'm going to kill you right after the concert. Yeah, that's like the funniest story I can
Great.
remember now. Yeah, it was really embarrassing, and I actually have the recording, but I haven't been able to post it because I don't want that to be around the internet. Yeah.
It makes for a good story. So.
Since that day, I always have my mute with me, even if I don't need the mute, because you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always my mute there with me, and yeah.
Great. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah, it was terrible.
yeah. Other favorite performing memories, or like from the Met, or a favorite opera to perform, or yeah.
I mean, the one that comes to mind, the most recent one, was to play Rosenkavalier with Simon Rattle. I mean, that was just incredible. I mean, it was a dream come true. That opera is just marvelous, superb, so sublime, so perfect. I mean, I think a lot of people say is the perfect opera. And the music and the voices is just like one big unit, and it's so beautiful. Like once you get to play the opera, not only the suite, not only the what most people know, because it's funny. When I was playing the opening, I was in some other parts of the opera. I always thought about the suite, but then some of the parts in the suite are not in real order of the opera. Some of for example, the waltz in the end of
Right.
the suite, that's not the ending of the opera. The waltz happens way before the end of the opera. So that was always like, oh, I thought the opera finished this way. But then when I heard it, when I was getting ready to play it at the Met, I was like, well, there you go. Like nothing is the way we think it is. And yeah, that's the most recent one that I can think of. And playing the ring cycle at the Met for the first time last year was also a highlight of my career. That was so much music to learn. It was really hard because I was playing both horn and Wagner tuba. So keeping both chops in good shape, the transposition you have to do, and just counting. I think that's the best I've done with my counting so far, because you gotta count so much, and you might not get for example, a cue for your part, but with the conductors we worked during the ring cycle, he gave every single cue. It was amazing.
Wow.
But the most amazing thing was that he was doing the whole thing by memory. He
Really?
did it by memory. and
Do you know?
the four operas.
Wow. Which conductor?
Philippe Jordan.
Oh, wow.
He's the music director of the Paris Opera, Paris National Opera right now, and I think the Vienna Symphony Orchestra, not the Philharmonic.
Oh, yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, and I think he goes to Vienna a lot. He has some other orchestras in Europe, but yeah, he was, you know. And I asked him, I said, why? I mean, how did you learn the ring cycle by memory? And he said that his dad, uh, I think I can remember if he said that his dad is a conductor or that always wanted to be a conductor, and he would take him to Bayreuth in Germany to the festival since he was 10 years old.
Wow.
So here in these operas, and he still goes every summer. He hasn't missed a summer ever since, he said. So having so close contact with the music of Wagner, I mean, made him memorize it. So he just goes there and memorizes the whole ring cycle. I mean, for me, that's incredible. And yeah, he did a great job. And just the fact of being part of the Mayor Orchestra, for me, I mean, I'm still up in the clouds, you know, that I every day think I'm part of that orchestra, and that, you know, that fear that I had before winning that audition of not knowing what was going to happen with my professional career, because I mean, I was an international student. I wasn't going to be able to stay in the States with that level if I didn't stay because of winning an audition. You know, I was always worried about that, telling my teachers, hey, I need to get better at horn, and I want to get better at horn, and I need you to help me out because I wanna stay here. And when you look back, and I don't know, you think of all the people that have helped you get there, you know, like all the people who have helped you with contributions, with, like, you know, constructive criticism and all that, then it makes you, I don't know, very humble. And, you know, it's not only you who got there, it's a lot of people. It's the combination of a lot of cooperation, collaboration, especially from my family, but, you know, my classmates, my teachers, conductors, people that I met in summer festivals, and all that influences. It's a lot to think of. Yeah, it's actually a vast number of people.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That humility that you have, that's really awesome. So.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you know, it's because that's true. I mean, it's not about me. It's about, you know, whoever helped you to get there. Because it's not over yet. I mean, I'm still learning a lot of things at the Met. It's not like we get there and we say, okay, I don't have to practice anymore. I don't have to. Why would I bother to learn more? I mean, I go every day and I hear my colleagues of the section, of the brass section, woodwinds, the orchestra, and I learn so much. I mean, they are so amazing, so sensitive. So, I mean, they have such, you know, high top level of playing that you learn from that, and you want to keep the standard of the orchestra always high. That's what makes you go practice more, go get better at your instrument. So
totally.
Yeah,
that's great. We're actually at the Yale Horns on Thursday. I think we're having a master class with Joe Anders.
Joe Anderer.
Oh, Anderer, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he just retired. He's I consider him a big influence of you know, of me, and same with the rest of my colleagues of the horn section. Yeah, he's just he knows so much. He knows all the operas top to bottom. Even if I was gonna miss a cue, he would tell me, hey, you're about to play. Yeah, and all these stories that you guys should ask him about stories. The stories,
okay.
Like, what are some funny stories, because he remembers so much. And I don't know if it would be fun if you ask him, hey, what's the story about Hugo?
Yeah, I will
and then tell me what he said. Tell me
Oh,
whatever
okay,
he said, which story he said.
for sure.
Okay.
Are you thinking of a certain
Okay.
one, or?
I might be thinking about one, but I'm gonna wait and see which one was the one he said.
Sounds good. I'll get back to you on
Okay.
that though. So
Okay.
awesome.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Let's.
Yeah, say hi. He's great. He's
Oh
amazing.
yeah, definitely. So do you have like a let's see. I think we're getting to the end here. Do you have the light at the end of the tunnel? So do you have um
Or-
like a description for the sound of the Met? I mean, I don't know, what makes
Hmm.
the orchestra different, or is it like different from any other orchestra you've played in? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know.
The first
Yeah.
quality that comes to mind is transparency. I think that's what characterizes the Met Orchestra.
Mhm.
Also, flexibility, because we have to play with singers. I mean, we play with singers, and it's a collaboration, constant collaboration with
Mhm.
the world's top singers, and you gotta be able to hear both parts, and you gotta be able to collaborate.
Mhm.
So I think being flexible and transparent with your playing, not covering anyone, not always wanting to be heard. Oh, I want the horns to be heard all the time. I want to play
Mhm.
louder. And I don't think the Met goes by that. It goes by serving the opera, serving the music, and bringing the best to
Mhm.
the audience. So I think flexibility.
Oh, hello.
Symphonic rep.
Oh, it
Are we back here?
broke up a little, but you were
It
talking
broke.
about flexibility and symphonic rap. That's the last thing I heard.
Yeah, at the Met we don't play symphonic rep every day. We play 3 concerts at the end of the season, but that we gotta just play the music, but we bring that mentality of like not being the ones who play more than any other sections. We want to hear everything as a whole in
Mhm.
the most beautiful way,
Yeah,
and we bring that to the stage of Carnegie Hall.
definitely.
And yeah, and I think that's what comes to mind.
Mhm.
Transparent. um it's just like a hybrid orchestra, because let's say we don't sound like, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, there's the Chicago tradition, Cleveland, New York Philharmonic, Boston, I think every orchestra is great, that every orchestra has like an identity, something that qualifies them. You think one word that describes the orchestra. For the Met, it's just different, because we have so much influence from the singers, from conductors, and yeah, I think it's transparency and flexibility
That's
that
great.
we have. Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to describe with one word. So thank you for
it's really hard. Yeah,
uh well,
it's just, I mean, for example,
yeah.
most people say, oh, one orchestra loud, the other orchestra bright. But it's not. I don't think it's true, because the orchestras are able to have such a wide variety of colors that,
Mhm.
like, narrowing down to one word would be a little disrespectful, because you're forgetting about the other things they do very well.
Yeah,
So
totally.
I don't like to say that one orchestra is only that way,
Yeah.
but each orchestra is unique in their own way. That's what I like to say.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, great. Let's see. Maybe a little about coronavirus and how that's so like what have you been doing? Have you picked up any hobbies, or what projects are you working on? Yeah.
I've been just, like trying to stay in shape, try to warm up and do a routine every day.
Mhm.
Learning the Gliere, as I mentioned before. I've been working on other pieces, like I've been also just playing tunes. I downloaded this app that is called iReal Pro
Oh
that
yeah.
has a lot of jazz progression. So I'm trying to work with that a little bit just to like get outside the classical box. And yeah, I mean, as of now, not doing anything in particular, like very rigorous, but just trying to stay in shape in general,
Mhm.
playing every day, doing a fair amount of playing so I don't lose like good shape in the lips.
Mhm. No, that's
Keeping things fun. Now is a good time to also take a break from the horn if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. So
yeah. Get some jazz in there, jazz French horn.
exactly, yeah. Just
Yes.
keep things fun,
Oh
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Great. I dabble with jazz a little as well, so but I'll have to get iReal Pro. Um,
yeah. That's a good investment.
mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Um, so do you how is the Met situation? Have you I don't know if this is like confidential or anything, but like have
Mhm.
they been in touch with or do you like have an idea of when you guys will go back um
Uh,
or
right now it's very uncertain,
Mhm.
and we got canceled. The season got canceled until the remaining part of the season.
Mhm.
So they canceled everything until September. But I don't think if we're gonna be back in September. It all depends on how things evolve. Because in New York City things are pretty bad with the virus. I think it's the epicenter of the virus in the United States right now. So it's things are really things are critical up there. So you just have to wait, do your part from home, and hoping that we just get back as soon as possible.
Mhm. Definitely.
So, but
So,
yeah, it's really sad that we're not playing at the Met anymore. But just hoping for the best. So,
definitely. Yeah.
and yeah, it's sad. That's all I can think of. It's just sad that we're having to go through this.
Yeah, man, I feel for you guys. Um, what do you miss the most? What do you say? Is it like
The music
uh,
making, just going, going,
really general?
going every night, and in general, um, wow, in general, just being in New York, be making music in New York, feeling like
Yeah,
I'm sharing my voice with with the audience. That's what I miss because that's I think that's what I miss. Sharing my voice through the horn with the audience.
yeah, um, yeah. I totally get that human connection and stuff. But you've also
Exactly, yeah. Because the
yeah.
people who go,
Oh, you go.
yes.
Oh, I was just saying you go, but
Oh,
that's also your
Hugo.
name.
Oh, Hugo. Yeah. Like,
Ugo.
hey, Hugo. They're like,
That's
oh yeah, that's my name.
that was funny. Does that happen often?
It could happen. Like, hey, Hugo. And I go, what? He's like,
Oh,
no. You. Oh, yes, it's your turn. You
right.
go ahead. Some other times it's like, hey, Hugo. It's like, what? What do I have to do? No, I'm calling you. I'm calling your name, man.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's just like typical thing.
hmm Um, but let's see. Yeah, has like COVID and stuff, has it have had like any positive impact on your creativity or like because I've seen like all these videos.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of Yeah, and it's been great because a lot of people that follow me on Instagram, especially younger students, they have been asking me a lot of questions, and I said I'm gonna try to do my best to cover a lot of the general questions.
Hmm.
One way could be by doing the Q&A that I did like a week ago, and also doing videos explaining things, but just having the time to do things, having the time to spend time with my family also. I That's something I have very limited during the year, during the normal season, and now being with them here in the house, it's just
Hmm.
great because we are sharing a lot of stories. We are cooking together, um, and yeah, I mean, I sometimes I play for them a tune here and there,
Hmm.
and yeah.
That's great. Well, I won't keep you from them. Uh, Thank you so much for this awesome interview.
Of course.
You're so kind and like giving of your time and all these Instagram things that you put out
Sure.
every day. You're really doing a lot for the horn world. So is there any like uh
Thank you.
yeah, I'm gonna steal this last question from David Cooper because he's been doing a lot of things too,
Okay.
and he always asks
Yeah, they
at the end, why is music important in the world going forward, or especially now?
yeah, it's very important because it keeps us connected. I think music brings us together in so many ways, but the most important one is because it's an universal language and everyone understands it. Everyone understands that music is to bring people together, bring communities together, shorten distances in between people. Because if you think the orchestra and the audience, one person in the audience could be from the, I don't know, Siberia, and I'm from Costa Rica, but we're in the same place, being connected through music, and that's why it's important these days. It shortens distances and keeps us together as a community.
Definitely. Couldn't
Yeah.
have said it any better. So thank you so
Thanks.
much, Hugo. You're the
You're
best.
very welcome,
So
Olivia.
fun talking with you, and
Same.
I wish you the best during
Thank you.
this Corona break. So
Yeah, stay safe. Stay home and stay safe. And
okay,
thank you. Have a
yeah.
good one.
All right. See you.
Bye bye.
Bye.